Welcome back to the shop, and coincidentally, day 17 of our 30-day paint and body challenge for the 1978 Datsun 280Z project we're working on. Fortunately, we're on day 17. Unfortunately, it means we have 13 days left in our paint and body challenge, which we're going to try to get a whole lot of work done. We're on to the most unpleasant part of the project, and that is body filler work. So pick a panel, spread some filler, start sanding, and keep sanding, and keep sanding, and then sand some more. So, welcome to day 17. Let's start spreading some filler and start sanding. That's day 17, pretty much in the bag. My hands can't take any more sanding for today, so we're gonna come back out and finish up what we can tomorrow. But we got a lot done. I was only expecting to get one panel at a time per day completed, and while these aren't actually completed and ready for the high build primer, they're pretty darn close. I've only got one little bitty section right here that needs some final sanding. Should be able to knock that out in half an hour to an hour tomorrow. And kind of same thing on the hatch area. There's two little bitty spots that weren't absolutely perfect. So we're gonna take care of those tomorrow. And then I've already got the other door, the passenger door, sanded down as well, and it's ready for filler. So got a lot done. I'm pretty happy with that. I can't be disappointed in that. When you start doing this in your shop, you need to realize multiple important things, but two major ones, right? One is no matter how much epoxy primer you put on your fresh bare metal, properly prepped and all that good stuff, when you start this process, you're gonna sand through, okay? And what that does is it completely kills your motivation. You think you're screwing up. I assure you, you're not. Many of you, when you're working in your own home shop, are gonna get to a point to where you're ready to start putting on filler like we did today, and you're gonna watch this video and you're gonna feel all motivated, and you're gonna start hitting that panel that you put 2 or 3 or 4 coats of epoxy primer on a DA sander with 80 grit sandpaper. That's what you kind of need. As rough as a scratch as you can get before you put filler on if you're outside the 7-day recoat window for the epoxy primer. If you're within the 7-day recoat window, meaning you sprayed your epoxy primer, it's still a good clean panel, within that time frame, usually after 48 hours, you can start applying filler directly on that with no scuffing whatsoever, like not even a red scuff pad, no 80 grit sandpaper. I highly recommend, if you were to pace yourself through the process, to do it that way. But for the sake of this video, I wanted to show you more than one way to skin the cat, right? So obviously we painted everything as the week progressed, and that led us to a situation to where we are outside of the 7-day recoat window for some of these panels, if not all of these panels by the time we get to them. So I wanted to show you, you can hit it with 80 grit sandpaper. Most of you have day jobs. Most of you only do this stuff on the weekends. So the likelihood of you being able to put 2 or 3 or 4 weeks at a time, every single day, all day long, into a project is nil to none, and probably not going to happen for 99% of the people watching this. So most of you are going to epoxy prime it, wait for it to dry, and then work on something else, epoxy prime that, and you're going to go through the motions just like we did on this video. You're going to get to a point on the project where you're going to want to start filler work and getting the panels perfected, okay? Now keep in mind the same principle applies. You're not going to get it perfect the first time around, or probably the 4th time around. You perfect it as you go. You're getting it perfect by the end result, which is base clear coat, right? We're nowhere close to base clear. We still have some filler work to do. We still got some sanding to do. It's not a big deal if it's not perfect, guys. So don't beat yourself up, especially when you get to a part in this, when you're hitting it with 80 grit sandpaper. It is extremely easy to burn through on the edges, the corners, and the highs, okay? Don't let that deter you. That's part of the process. So keep some things in mind. There's a lot of important things that I'm going to point out as this series progresses, but two very important things that I would consider above all else is stay motivated and stay on course, okay? When you see some metal poking through, don't let that stop you from working on the rest of everything you have going on. You still have a whole project to complete. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't sweat the small stuff. And that's what I consider small stuff, okay? Metal poking through is not a big deal. All we're going to do is take our little spot gun or full-size gun. We're going to put it down on pinpoint. We're going to turn down the pressure and get it to where it atomizes properly, spraying a very, very small area. And on bare metal only areas, we're going to hit that with some epoxy again. Not a big deal, all right? On areas that have filler on them, you don't want to put epoxy primer back on the filler, okay? You can end up with issues in the future, mainly due to shrinkage, okay? Over time, this stuff does shrink. Even the modern stuff, they say it doesn't shrink as bad, but I like to inhibit that as much as possible, or any issues going forward as much as possible. So I know enough to know that's not something I want to do. What I would rather do is, if I'm working on a massive area and I broke through metal that needs filler and everything else, I have two options. One is to go ahead and hit it with epoxy primer again after wax and grease and all that stuff. After using wax and grease remover, decontaminating the panel, hit it with epoxy primer, wait 24 hours, and then start my filler work. That's option one. You can do that if you want to. That's perfect for a restoration type job if you're not rushing it and you're not in a hurry and you don't mind, again, using more material and repeating steps that you thought you were moved past by this point to put on filler, right? The other acceptable method is most of what you're going to find in collision repair shops or insurance work. It is putting filler over direct bare metal. It's not something I prefer to do, but if it's the only way that you can stay motivated enough to keep the project moving forward, I encourage you to do that over getting so frustrated that you give up. Okay, so if you run into so many bare metal spots that you're having issues with every time you touch sandpaper, you're burning through and hitting bare metal, do the filler work. Move on to the next thing, okay? Don't let that deter you from not finishing the project, because you're gonna run into issues all along. And if you're letting every single one of those issues stop you and everything has to be perfect along the way, you're gonna get so burnt out and frustrated and upset so many times that you're not gonna finish your project. So burning through paint, hitting bare metal, not a big deal. Hit it with some epoxy primer, move on. If you don't wanna do that, put some filler directly on bare metal as long as that bare metal is clean and has 80 grit sand scratches, okay? You can do 36 grit or 40 grit if you want to go that course. I don't think it's necessary, especially if you've taken the time to properly prep it before, but you do you. Again, the name of the game is finishing the project and getting these things back on the road, and you're not going to do that if every time you touch a panel, you're getting frustrated. So the big takeaways is you're going to hit bare metal when you start the sanding process, okay? You're gonna probably sand and use filler multiple times, all right? You're gonna put, very rarely, especially if you've never done this before, are you gonna be able to swipe some body filler on there and sand it the first time and it wind up exactly the way you expected it to, and it's actually the way it needs to be, okay? Your expectations and what it needs to be may be two very different things, but very rarely are you gonna be able to swipe one little filler swipe of body filler or Evercoat Rage Gold or anything like that onto the panel and it work out perfectly, okay? You're gonna get there as you progress through the project, okay? It's not gonna be on the first panel. I can almost bet you that. And if it does happen to happen on the first panel, that was very lucky. Congratulations, job well done, right? On the second panel, you're gonna hit a roadblock, or the third or the fourth or the fifth. But it's gaining the experiences as you move through the project. And that's what matters, is continual movement, continual progress. Even if you don't feel like you're making progress, you keep coming out here every single day, hour after hour. I assure you, you're gonna get to a point where you can look back and say, wow, a month ago, I was here and now I'm here. And sometimes you're gonna look back and see that you've gotten nowhere in an entire month. But that's what this 30-day challenge is all about. And on that note, we're done with day 17. I got some more sanding to do. I will see you guys tomorrow on day 18. We'll see how much more we can get done. I appreciate you joining in on our 30-day challenge for the 1978 Datsun 280Z paint and body project. If you like this stuff, click that thumbs up button. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. And if you're gonna subscribe, please turn on your bell notification. That way you get notified just as I get around to posting day 18. I appreciate you guys as always. And until next time, thanks for watching this one.